Okay, so I guess I'm back. I'll wait to see if anybody comes back in. Because I got cut off. I started with the title, What Doe Said About 420. And so if you listen to that first tape that I made, you can hear me comment that Doe wasn't talking about marijuana usage at all. But it was just, in summary, Kathy has frequently been given, or it feels that way. It feels like she's been given a number of a tape to listen to. And what she does, there's some lessons in it that I think to be most appropriate for certain things that she's been asking about, or I've been asking about, or thinking about, or whatever it is, asking whatever source we determine is the highest source in our minds, just wanting answers, help with something, generates thirst, vibration, that the next level has ways of picking up on. It's like it's actually like a radio wave that's being sent out, or a packet even, probably. Our whole package probably has some representation in some digital framework. Yeah, like a series of frequencies, like radio waves, or transport information. They're mind. It's actually a transportation of mind. Radio waves and other waves, but radio waves in particular I know about. Yeah, because Doe talked about it that way. But he said that humans weren't given the understanding and the ideas to actually learn to transmit and or decipher the radio waves at the next level knows how to decipher, that come from a human brain and go into a human brain through our senses. So humans don't know everything because they weren't given that opportunity to know that thing, that subject, except in degrees. And humans can, I think, some things that humans can figure out on their own with what's already been given. And that includes what the space aliens know. So anyway, I'm going to get on to from what their experiences have been. And the fact that they have, the fact in my mind that they have physical spacecrafts that gave humans a whole bunch of ideas that they've been working on ever since those things were happening. Those crashes or even just exchanges of technology for, the benefit that the space aliens want to have in not having humans with their military trying to shoot down their spacecraft while they abduct people and do other things, and that they've been doing for a long time, according to the documentation from a number of researchers who I used to follow. I learned to follow, not follow, but I learned to read a little bit of while I was in the classroom, and Doe was having us examine all the things that were being said about UFOs and space aliens, and because that wasn't the focus that much when T was here. When T was in her vehicle, the focus was the lessons to learn for the students, so that they could potentially qualify to be on her crew. She didn't say it that way, but Doe said it that way. Later, after T left, that's what was happening. And T wasn't going to have somebody on her crew that didn't do their best, whatever that is not for us to determine, but do their best in their minds of seeking their minds and applying the things that we choose to apply. So anyway, and which is a process, and that process includes desiring to do it, not doing it because you're told you have to do it. And that's with everything. And that means having experience enough to say, I don't want to do that anymore, if that's what the experience leads you to. And you can see that, addictions to substances can be very much like that. But that doesn't mean substances are bad. It just means that they can be addicting to a degree that can have ramifications and side effects. And so there's consequences with it. With all our choices, there's potential, not all our choices, I don't think, but our big choices, mostly, there's consequences from, and when something we want to do doesn't work out the way we think we want it to work out, sometimes we need some experience with that, so that we can know that that's why the next level doesn't really do much with what humans would call miracles. They have the capacity to do miracles galore. Really, in a technical capacity, they can heal people of their diseases. They can do all kinds of things. But still within the physics. But humans don't know all the physics involved with, because they don't know that much about the physics of mind. They know a lot. We certainly have learned a lot over the years, but more than maybe before, except before, the learning about the physics of mind was, it wasn't technically backed by microscopes and telescopes and discoveries that do use technology to understand.
Look into things.
Yeah.
Reminds me of that conversation T and Bill were having about if you could see the next level deposit, if one of your bodies were to be discovered and dissected.
Right. He wondered if you would see the evidence of it, if you knew what to look for. You know what I mean? If you, but a lot of times what happens is that people by so-called accident see something they didn't see before. And this is a very important subject, that we each see things according to our own capacity and our programming in our genes and in our environment as where our vehicles are growing, and the choices we make during that whole time of a life of a human vehicle expose us to choices that we then later decide, well, I don't want to do that anymore. I don't like how I felt about that. I lied to get that thing, and not that all lies are bad, but I lied to get that thing, and now I'm doing it under false pretenses, and I don't want to do that anymore. That's a tiny example maybe for some people of ways of wanting to change things, and you see that throughout the human kingdom. Even with the people that are doing clearly bad things to other people by like fostering wars and stimulating them to exist in the first place, and then taking advantage of them in every way that they can after they're created, and then changing the history so that people don't see it, even changing the propaganda machine, and having different forms of propaganda to confuse issues. That humans have been doing that for ever since we have records of humans doing that. I guarantee it. Even if they didn't have digital, like in a previous civilization, have the same kind of capacity that we have now for digital communication. They could have had that, but they could have also had it in a different format. Like it might be more related to doing things with their minds more, because maybe the minds weren't so decayed in the sense of being able to like read other people's thoughts to some degree. What's that? And sound? Yeah, with sound, with all the elements, color. There's all kinds of ways of communicating, and there's all different aspects of reality that we are aware of and we take for granted for the most part. I do. I don't know. Pretty much everybody does. The magnificence of our eyes and the recording devices, but not only that, our eyes actually project energy, project frequencies. Right, we have like ray guns coming out of our eyes, and science tells us that. They say that what we see is a reflection of what's in front of us that our eyes are focused on. It reflects back, and then that's interpreted by our brain, just like the way AI is doing.
They even tell us it's upside down.
They tell us it's upside down, right?
Remember that?
Yeah, I remember that. They say that what we see is actually, which is kind of bizarre to think about.
No. Why would they tell us that?
Well, they might be wrong too. They don't know everything about all this. They can only test so many things. They can't actually create a human lens. And also all those nerve endings, the billions of them that are associated with the brain and the spinal column, and yeah, it's like beyond belief what these eyes can see and cannot see. We can't see everything that exists. We know that. And, tell me who can see the carbon in the air. Well, you can if it's still in a certain composition.
You can't see the wind.
But you can't see the wind unless there's stuff in it that you can see. So you can see the wind,
That's still not seeing the wind.
but you can see the air, like when you look at the atmosphere, like on a foggy day. There's a whole bunch of molecules in the air suspended there. Clouds. Clouds are seeing molecules that are suspended because they've accumulated by the pressure systems to hold dirt, from the evaporation of the earth. Anyway, I'm not saying I'm a scientist by using these big words and everything.
I say I'm a scientist in my song.
Yeah, Kathy does. And one of the songs that she took from one of her journals, I think from many years ago, she said, "I'm a scientist," and I thought, wow, see to me that's her mind was growing at a rapid pace, more than every young person goes through this. How we, what we learn is part of the whole issue, and so, but we're all receivers and transmitters, and the emotions is all part of that, and the force is, the sun provides it, the water provides it, everything on the earth, the ground, the dirt of the earth, the minerals set up foundations for cellular growth and things. Anyway, I'm going to move on, but the Sacred Gift says, "I've always wondered about this because I saw you grow it." Oh, right. Right, because on that Cult of Cults, Heaven's Gate, the Cult of Cults documentary, I was filmed in my house that I have in the mountains in Vermont. And And I tried to grow the product over 3 seasons, I think it was, before I came up with a good result of, about 20 7, 8, 9 foot plants that had all kinds of buds on them.
That you and I courted each other over.
Yeah, we courted on base. We,
Turning it,
like Kathy talked about in her stream, that when we met, and an individual named Raymond came with Kathy. Kathy picked him up in New Hampshire, I think, somewhere. Maine, right, in Maine. And, to have some protection in case I was a lunatic. I mean, I wouldn't blame her for thinking that way, because she didn't know me except from my YouTube channel, and I'm talking about all this crazy stuff all the time, so anyway, but when they came over, one of the first things we did was, when it turned dark, we were sitting outside talking,
it was dark.
and it was dark, and we were sitting outside talking, and I had the thought of, I don't know if we had smoked by then.
No, you did it right when we pulled up, babe.
Right when we pulled up. Okay, and so then we walked through my my garden, which was,
We went in your house.
huh?
Before we even went in the house.
Before we even went into the house, Kathy's reminding me.
So you're leading us through these 20 huge pot plants.
Yeah, they were like all in this it was like
best
3
story,
deep,
though-
7 across kind of thing.
The best story about him, though, you guys, is that he can literally only take 1 to 2 hits and then he's done. So I was like, we had 10 5-gallon buckets of weed.
Some of that was leaf.
We had
It
10.
doesn't matter, right?
Buckets.
7, 10, whatever.
We
it
had
is.
10 buckets.
I want to say 7 because I think that special 7 number.
Okay, and they were full
No.
to the brim with buds, and we
Yeah.
are the worst weed dealers. We could not sell it to save our lives. We discovered that we don't know anybody that wants. It was crazy, and we ended up giving it away to family.
Part of my vehicle family, my family. By the way, Doe didn't talk about himself as a vehicle all the time. Like if you'll hear him actually in tape 420 at one point tell a story about him with T, and I'll let you go into that on your own if you find the tape and hear it, because it's an interesting story about when he was in jail in 1974, I believe it was. And anyway, but I'm going to move on from that.
Why were they in jail? You can't just bring that up and not tell people why they were in jail. Crazy.
Well, you can read the 88 update in the Heaven's Gate book and see what Doe said about it. Okay, and you can listen to the first Beyond Human session 1, and he talks about it there too. In the Beyond Human, The Last Call, it's a video series that is still, it's on Vimeo. And here's the book that this is.
Go ahead and email rep@Heaven's Gate.
It's backwards.
Yeah, it will be.
Right.
And they do require cash, but they will send you a copy of that book. We cannot.
Right, because they put their
Well, that's not just.
fake copyright on it, and so but they're the ones that got the task. The first ones to get the task. Well, not really the first ones, because Rick Odie was first as well. And so was Juan Odie. And anybody that received the books. And were meant to receive the audios. Were given the task. I just wanted to be more accurate about that. But their part of the task was to reformat the existing manuscript that the class had posted on the Heaven's Gate website, that is still posted on the Heaven's Gate website, and put it into a book form and print it, have it printed, and I don't think there was anything wrong with selling it in order to recoup the investment of it. Though it wasn't a religionist or tea. You know, they wanted students to have the ability to support themselves by giving out their information, telling other people about their information, if that's the way it would go. And it didn't go that way very much until after they left.
Oh, here's the 88 update.
Yeah. So should I read it? That part?
No, it's incredibly long.
No, just the part about the jail.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
Yeah, I don't have to read it, but the
I
story.
walk to the trash.
Sure. Well, I think I should just tell that story, though, right?
Yeah.
Quickly as I can. Just so we have time to get on to other things.
Yeah, you don't have to be quick. You have till 8. They stream.
Oh, okay. All right, good. So,
Kind of want to go for a little walk.
okay, good, baby. That'd be good. Have a good walk.
Yeah. If you hear too much fluttering, she can't go farther.
Right.
We're gonna get rid of these nasty boxes.
I won't be worried about it.
Yeah, she's okay. Although I am scaring her by standing here like this. Okay.
Right, Joseph Coach. You thought I was going to talk about the other 420, not the tape.
Joseph!
I know, that's Kathy's humor, you know.
Joseph, I'm hitting my weed pin right now. Too. Even if you're at work.
You know, Doe did say that, I mean, he was never a weed user. I don't know if he ever did it. He probably did, though. I don't know. Maybe not. It's possible. He used alcohol on a regular basis. I don't know that he was an alcoholic, except to the degree that if he felt like he needed it all the time, you know, then that's when you become more, it becomes a bigger habit. And you can regulate that. I know people can regulate that, and it's not like a demon or anything. It's only a demon, alcohol or drugs or, you know, marijuana, if we do bad things to ourselves or others while we're inebriated. You know, so certainly while driving, it isn't a great idea for some people to drive even on marijuana. A certain amount of weed in my system, THC in my system, I should not drive. A little bit I can drive. But I lose my navigational skills if I talk about something that's important to me, which I demonstrate that all the time when I do streams from the car. So I'm not pretending to be something I'm not. However, I'm not pretending also that I'm judged severely by choices, because Doe said that if he had to be in this world knowing what he knows, he'd have to be drunk. In other words, he'd have to be using some substances to help him get through each day because of all the, kind of terrible things that are happening. I'm not focusing on the terrible, okay? I'm not, that's not the focus of this. We each have to deal with that in one way or another, in degrees, the difficult things. And so if substances help us through those difficult times, whether it's a death in the family or whatever it is, then, you know, use it. Like we use pain pills if we need them, but they didn't want us to assume that we couldn't handle it. And, because a lot of times what can happen is that you need more and more. You got to be, and that can be okay too, but there's a certain amount of detriment to over anesthetizing ourselves. Like a lot of people know that they can't do their job while they're inebriated. Like I can't do my job driving passengers and deliveries for food deliveries on weed. I have done a little bit of that when I was I was having too many negative responses to the traffic, to the people that were slow and in the traffic while I'm trying to make money by when time is money. Get to my next order. Not that I'm hyper about that, but it does wear on you when you're trying to always make time and you get in traffic jams and you can't and you got to just sit there. Or if the passenger smells real bad, you don't really want them in the car any longer and you can get upset with that. And you can have all these upsetness that sometimes just taking a hit of weed helps me just chill. Just get, numb my senses in some ways, which a lot of medications do to people because of how hard it's being to live in this world. Because there's so many things that are being surfaced as completely bonkers. And they call what I believe bonkers. Those same people that think what they're doing is normal. I mean, I'm not talking about just the things like the Epstein files, and I'm not talking about the UFO alien information. All of it's part of it, but also all the politicking and all the deceit that's going on and the manipulation of people and the use of the tax dollars in ways to fight wars and build weapons and to kill other people with, or to secure the oil supplies so that Americans can have it. But really, it's the 1% that want the oil supply, because they want not only to run the military and everything, but in case they need to use that against people and the police and all that. But I'm not saying that military are bad people or police are bad people, because it's not about that. It's about each person, actually, and how they are. But everything is on the table as far as experience in the human kingdom, according to Doe. But if we have certain behaviors, if we allow certain thoughts in our heads to exist all the time, even if it's for fun, if we're allowing that program to exist that is justified to drop a bomb on somebody, that is as an extreme example. But you could be dropping a bomb on somebody in your mind when you go to the grocery store if you don't like them for some reason, and you can wish harm on them. If you are in the habit of doing that and nobody's ever faced you with it, and like we get with the trolls that come to Kathy's and the stream that we do with the music. They come in there and they say things that are so hurtful in reality, and sometimes Kathy responds to it, and sometimes they think a little differently about it. So to me, then, so Kathy at that point has, in a sense, died a little bit for their sins. In other words, she went on an emotional, severe kind of difficulty that can even result in, having fits that she was able to get out of, but were dangerous to drive under if that condition was going to happen. So anyway, what I'm saying is that people that tell the truth to power being the individuals that are putting a judgment on somebody, that's a negative judgment on them, It's not coming from a place of helping them in any way, shape, or form, except they don't want them to sing or don't want them to play the flute or don't want them to, whatever they don't want to happen. When they put that on people, they're actually generating frequencies that are detrimental to healthy life of the cellular level as well as the mental cellular level. They're building that program into their system so that becomes potentially a norm. They become addicted to being negative.
Yeah.
And thinking that they are right, too, is another part of that. That they have the judgment to say that what you're doing is bad. It's wrong. It needs to be stopped when you're not hurting anybody.
Yeah, you're not doing nothing wrong.
Right. So each of us have that challenge with what thoughts we want to allow to stay in our heads, and the society and the space alien souls. Yeah, I know I'm making my eyes bug eyes when I say that, but because that word is so confusing really anymore. But the beings that have the ability to actually project very bad vibes, even like ideas of how you can manipulate somebody into getting what you want, like in order to have body parts that they can learn to stitch together, and genetically grow and stuff like that. Yeah, it's a good alternative. We want to be able to grow skin so that we can, fix people's when they get burned. That's a good thing. I don't think that's a bad thing. And the next levels, I don't think against that. But they will do that at any cost. The people, and take advantage and to breed babies. Which the rich have been doing that. For centuries and centuries, millennium. I'm sure previous civilizations were doing that with their young, trying to get their young to take over their position in the company or in the government or the religion, whatever it is. Even though the religion most of them aren't supposed to be focused on breeding. Anyway, I'm going to move on from that rant. But I just think that as soon as we stop thoughts that we know are not positive to somebody else or to ourselves, then the more restraint we can have on those thoughts. I'm not saying that to not question things. That's not negative. Questioning something, or even if you're expressing yourself as if you know it, but you really have a question about it, that's not necessary. It's the vibration that comes across, and to not let things out of our head is a good thing. Sometimes it's not, because there is a type of tough love. If you see somebody really falling, you take a chance on a positive. But even when you do that, if you really care about that person a little bit, then you'll try to do it in a framework that maybe they can stand a chance of accepting it, instead of like a preacher or a yelling or a framework. But I don't know. It's complicated in a sense these days, especially with what I believe are the influences, which Joe talks about on this tape, 420. I don't know if I should just jump to that. Well, I will talk about that. So this tape, just to give you, I didn't talk about what it is. What we're seeing on my screen there are my very rough notes that I took, and then I added to, and I changed before you saw it, to add in some things that I think they were talking about that I thought provided some context. Very little, and the description that came from the crew that was making these recordings, which I was on sometimes with Soroti, and was well, 420 is the number of the tape, and the AV part of that number has to do with the side of the tape, A or B, because we use both sides of the tapes when we recorded meetings. And then, and this was recorded on November 5th, 1989. I was in the classroom. I think we had just arrived to New Mexico, which we went there in stages. So everybody didn't go there at the same time. Some people were back in Texas tying up loose ends. In the house that we lived in, that was where Doe wrote the 88 update in a little bit north of Dallas, Texas. Anyway, so we had just had estate sales of 3 houses worth of nice furniture, nice paintings that were totally unrelated to what we were about, because we didn't want realtors or people that had to come into the house to work, or the owner if they happened to stop in, which they weren't allowed to do. They weren't supposed to be doing that. They required that in the lease, that they were going to have their privacy and get a phone call ahead of time if they wanted to make an arrangement to talk or do something in the house. So anyway, we had the estate sale for those 3 houses worth of material, and then went to Albuquerque area. And anyway, so that's when this tape was made, and on November 5th, 1989. So the summary of the tape was described as liars until we change our desire. You've really got to want it. Deceitful ways that creep in. Our heads in the right place, in the way we see the class and dealing with parents. Using a check partner in the right way. Okay, so that's this could also be talked about in. I could make a video that was, if I took everything apart and I gave a thorough talk about it, it'd probably be like 4 hours if I could stay on topic that long. And I don't know if I can. I'm kind of, out there sometimes with staying on topic. But I don't think that's a bad thing necessarily, because there are all kinds of things that come up during that off-topic time that I think are good. So, one of the first things Doe says in this meeting is that he wants to keep things simple and satisfy the vehicle's cravings. The vehicle is the body. We use the word vehicle because what Tiendo said was the reality was that the mind actually controls the vehicle the way that a person drives a car, where the vehicle is the car and they're driving, and so they're making all the choices. I mean, some of those choices are based on the vehicle itself, of course. When to eat and stuff. But that's the overview of the word vehicle. So don't want to satisfy the vehicle's cravings for things that people are slow to give up. Now let's say you had a favorite potato dish, and you never got that. And then when you got potatoes, you got a dish that wasn't your favorite, and you were disappointed by it. I mean, we didn't have that example really didn't exist, but equivalent examples can be made to exist. That it was any like and dislike that was not coming from your older members. Now that sounds like brainwashing, right? Yes, it does sound that way. But the fact is that you were in an astronaut training program, and if you didn't recognize the captain as the captain of that program, then you shouldn't be in that program. You shouldn't be there. Just don't go there. Leave it. And so that was the basis of this, and the basis of the ideas that were happening at that time was that if we wanted to change our own behaviors by our own desire, we had to learn what those behaviors were that might be offensive to the next level. Because they're real people. They work in laboratories that aren't necessarily test tubes. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about laboratories that could be over the weather of the planet. The weather lab is one example that they gave us, just to give us examples of reality, instead of having us have these imaginary ideas that we get from the previous provisions of information that didn't need to be that exact about that, because they were teaching behaviors and ways primarily. And we didn't have technology during Jesus' time, to describe people being on a spacecraft, even though Jesus referred to it as by the word, I forgot the word, but it was dwelling, it was translated as name. No, it was translated as abode, A-B-O-D-E in English. And if you look at the word, it has to do with having a residence in in two circumstances of that the Father and Jesus would make our abode with you. In other words, they put the plural words in there because Jesus at the time was saying that we would be residing with you again, actually, because he was residing with us only by himself the previous time. So it wasn't again in the context of power. So, and the other place where that same word that's translated as abode was used, the same Greek word was translated as mansion. In another part of that, I don't know if it was in the same chapter, I forget now. But if you look up that definition in the Greek lexicon and dictionary, dwelling place is another way to translate it, in addition to residence and be with you. Abide with you was also used to, like if you were walking along somebody, you were abiding with them, walking down the trail or whatever, the road. So anyway, so those are two so the indication was that there were many mansions in what Jesus described as his Father's house. In other words, many of those houses constituted the Father's house, the older member's house, his older member's house, who he learned from his own experience that he knew was T, and that he was trying to abide by everything T gave him, especially after T left. And part of what T gave him was the authority to run the classroom. to finish the classroom, to complete the task, without having a blueprint of what was going to happen that was going to help prepare the students so that they actually literally desired to leave by any way that the captain gave them to leave, because they experienced what it takes to take control of the human vehicle. And by using the mechanism of thinking of the negatives as like a person that's outside their body, trying to get you to do something that you don't want to do, or not do something that you do want to do. I said that twice, right? No, that wants to get you to do something you don't want to do, or stop you from doing something that you want to do, is to not accept their thoughts into our heads. But they're very tricky, and they don't give up. And so we can choose to become keener and keener to the first sight of those thoughts, and recognize it and stop and think. It reminds me of the song where Kathy says, stop, stop, stop. And I never knew how to actually play with that when she gets to that point. And I think I've determined that that's not a place to necessarily put, specific note sounds. And it can still, I'm learning to play with the music that Kathy and I are doing. That was generated by Suno for us. And that doesn't take away from our creativity to play with it. It's backup tracks. And maybe pretty soon we'll be able to do it without any backup tracks, or with backup tracks we put on it, or other people maybe even help us with putting on it, so that but to use it as a, I know people, look down on us sometimes for that. And, there's always people that are against progression. They may have been in a band that was somewhat successful for many years, and if they see somebody else doing something and it doesn't seem to be up to par to what they do with that band, they say that you're off key, or you're not in sync with the same music that you're following. And sometimes they're just mean, but sometimes they have such a perfect idea in their minds of what is good. Like if people actually thought about it in a objective way more, that were having a problem, and they were actually able to see what's going on with what we're doing, but mostly what Kathy's doing in singing, they would realize that is very difficult. Not only to accept the criticism, to know that she's sometimes hitting notes that don't sound as good with the other notes. Okay, fine. Or not holding it as strong as she could hold it maybe in that place, because she needs to groom that. We need to train our vocal cords and our mouth and everything and our mind to, how to put that force out. It takes force. It takes effort. And so when she starts with those words, I think of her like it's like a play. She's like on stage live, actually delivering her lines in a way that feels like she's talking to us, telling about an experience or whatever, her experiences in the past and whatnot. And frankly, there's a strong mind in my partner Kathy. and and perception, sensitivity to negativity is also very difficult. Doe said that the reason T's vehicle failed was because of dealing with all the negativity that was sent to her. Now you're going to say, well, where did she get negativity? But she got it from the parents. Big time. They thought that they were a UFO cult in 1975 that were brainwashing people to think they were going to go on a UFO and go to outer space somewhere. And they stole them away, and against their will, the parents of individuals that were on the other side, thought that they think about their kids as still kids, not able to make adult decisions. Even though in other areas of their lives they were making adult decisions, many of them, myself included. I'm not saying I was always making adult decisions, because I made bad choices sometimes. But, Doe said adultery really was not becoming an adult. I never really did get that very well in my head. Maybe I'm getting it more now. Because an adult is somebody that, I don't know how to describe an adult. I guess we can be adult about some things and not adult about other things, Kathy always has this joke when she does something with the bank account or the scheduling, the things in the world with the corporations and the banks and all that, that she's doing an adult thing. It was funny when she said that because it felt like it was true also. That we really don't want to do those things, but we do have to pay the mortgage because we want a place to live, and so we have to fix things when they break sometimes, and those are good things to be able to have to do. But all of them actually present us with lesson opportunities, and Kathy talks about that in the tapes. In her music as well, how there's always a lesson. She knew that when she was in her late teens or early 20s. She knew that enough to write it down. A lot of people don't know that there's always a lesson. That's a big statement. That means there's always something to learn. And that means there's always room for improvement also. And that doesn't mean that you're beside yourself with thinking, I got to improve, everything's got to be for improvement, and I can't have any fun. Yeah, you can have fun. That can be for improvement too. But the fun shouldn't take the shape of putting somebody else down. Being negative or hateful. Because then it's human fun. The distortion.
And that's not even fun.
A reality. I know.
It's like crazy.
I know.
It gives, I don't know. It's like you could make somebody smile and that makes you feel happy too.
Right.
Why wouldn't you want to make somebody smile? Why do you want to make them cry?
Because people have genetically, they have problems. They don't even know it. They're even triggered in ways at times in their age of the vehicle that triggers certain things biologically and mentally, maybe even related together a lot of times. If somebody's, somebody in the family suffered something by somebody else's hand and themselves even, and they're severely angry about it, they may dwell on that all the time to where they then justify doing something bad to the person,
Yeah.
And it's a terrible thing when that happens, and it does happen all the time, or justifying getting rid of you, that other person, because they cheated on you or, whatever it was.
A lot of people, they get in, that, this one guy just killed all five of his kids and then his wife and then himself.
God.
and they were in like a lot of debt, and his family probably didn't know, and instead of fixing them, he killed them all. And himself, because he couldn't see any other way out of it.
Right. So, right. That's,
They lived in a mansion,
yeah. Huh.
so he couldn't, bear the thought.
That's like the people that we were told about during the Great Depression that were jumping out of buildings because their businesses failed.
And then all the people that are associated with that,
Yeah. Or if they're made to face some dire consequences to their behavior, or fraud, or if they go to jail, that's another reason why people want to get out of here. And those are lesson opportunities, actually, even though they're severe lesson opportunities that the mind in that vehicle might not be able to overcome. And, and the next level has ways of helping everybody be in a vehicle that can reach up for what is beyond. But if we were living for many years thinking that the only way to solve a problem is like the common cold, is to take an aspirin, and get some sleep. That might be true, actually. It might help a whole lot. Okay, but there might also be other substances that are growing that can give you relief from that discomfort enough. And so if somebody says to you that that's witchcraft, using herbs for healing, they're stupid. They're just stupid. They're ignorant of the reality that all the substances on this planet can potentially have benefit for the creatures on the planet. All of them, including humans. I'm talking about humans primarily, but it's not the case at all. And also, good caring vibrations towards somebody who's suffering is also very helpful. The mind is very powerful. Our minds, don't differ that much in their power, I don't think. I'm talking about me, and I'm not saying that somebody has a category of mind that's greater than me. Yeah, plenty of that. People that can speak better, describe things better, be less long-winded. I'm just giving some example, or better spoken. They get to the point better. They don't drag on with putting too many subjects in the sentence and all that. Better. So they excel in that part of the mind, but they might not excel at all in the part of the mind that can open themselves up to using different words that aren't even in the dictionary, because you make it up because you like the way it sounds, or it's a slang. You know what I mean? There's some people that would criticize my writing, saying that I had misspellings in it. I'm talking about comments on Facebook before they had the spell checker. Because my first writings were mostly on my blog, sawyerhg.wordpress.com. And it didn't have a spell checker right away. Well, it did. But I was writing things on articles and things, and everybody didn't have a spell checker. I'd get criticism for it. I can understand it if you can't understand the word.
Right.
But, if you can understand the word, you know what the intention is then. You don't need to be critical at that moment. Unless you just want to find fault with. So that's actually there's a type of addiction to that, fault finding.
You just made that up.
No, it's, well, maybe I made it up. Maybe I'm not saying it in the way that Tiendo would say it.
Fall finding.
But, okay, let me give you an example of
Sounds kind of
Norrodi. And this isn't putting Norrodi down at all, because Norrodi knows better than I do what kind of a difficulty it was to stop her from correcting somebody. Because if you're correcting somebody, in a sense, you're finding fault. It's supposed to be called, what is it? Not critical thinking, but helpful criticism or
Constructive.
constructive criticism. And yes, criticism can be constructive. Even the negatives can be changed into positives. By the person that's receiving the negative can change it into a positive. It might be very, very difficult. It might take years to do it sometimes, But if they keep on going and seeking to be better, to do better, to have not repeat certain mistakes or whatever it is, then the next level doesn't throw people away that have been showing goodness. The format in which they are saved can be different. But in the classroom, the format was specific to being saved in the same, being given positions, literally jobs to do, that the way that Tiendo felt, both the ones that were called Lucifer and the fallen angel souls with their hybridized vehicles now did. They would. No, to be on the crew with Tiendo's crew, you couldn't have a certain amount of manufactured belief, maybe, thinking that, okay, the way I'm going to get to the next level is by becoming a saint. And so what's that defined as? I'm going to pray so many times a day. I'm going to say these words over and over again. Which, by the way, all things that, not the things about praying so many times a day, but vain repetitions was something that Jesus said not to use because they become worthless. And Doe talked about that a little bit in this tape 420. Tiny bits, little tiny things he said in that tape I can reflect on as being things that are part of next level behaviors and were also taught by Jesus, even though Doe wasn't referring to Jesus when he was talking about a lot of these things. Sometimes he did. And in this tape, it shows when we were working on thinking about going public again, which started in 1987, with Doe thinking, well, if we do go public again, am I going to do it by myself? Or somehow I feel like the students are going to do it, and this time. And he said, well, then how are we going to talk to people to be able to reach them with what we know and have experienced? And he thought, well, Christians believe in Jesus, and if you look at the core teachings of Jesus related to, that could be related to what Tiendo were teaching without referring to those scriptures that were put in the back of the Heaven's Gate book, then Christians would be evidencing belief in Jesus, saying they do, and so why wouldn't they be somebody to address with our literature, with our way of talking? So we're going to use, religious terms, Bible or spirit, or instead of mind, or instead of books, or manuscripts, or whatever you want to say. Those writings that became the Bible because the religionists made it into this certain restricted material, and then they put the focus on what Paul said, and Paul was never with Jesus, didn't quote him that I ever saw, because he didn't hear it. But he got it secondhand, and secondhand was very powerful. And so Paul was he might have been doing the best he could. And I don't feel like negative towards Paul, but then the lower forces used that to form the Christian religion. And that's why, if you look at what Christians are saying now, you won't see hardly anything that Jesus taught, except I'm not the judge of people, okay? Because there are many people they're Christian believers, and they are trying to live by the commandments of giving their all to God and treating their neighbor as themselves. And they participate in soup kitchens, and they do all kinds of things in their lives to support what they feel is good. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. There's a certain reverence that people feel that is appropriate because it's real when they go into a cathedral. But you might feel that in Dodger Stadium too, but there is no Dodger Stadium anymore, is there? That was in New York, the New York Dodgers, before the Yankees. I saw some bands there in Dodger Stadium when it was part of the World's Fair. Anyway, when I was a youngster. Anyway, that's stupid to, why I gotta put that in there? I'm talking about...
Because you're telling a story.
Yeah, I'm telling a story. So...
What's going on in the chat?
Yeah, thank you.
I see it on your screen.
Oh, right. Joseph says, greetings, it's raining. Yes, it is. It's raining. You can hear it. How are you guys doing tonight? And so far, so good. And I think we do plan to do a Kathy Sawyer stream, music stream, in a short time. As talking about, whoops. Talking about tape for, oh yeah, I went through that already. Someone saying to Kathy Ann Sawyer that they love smoking weed. And Double the God says, refers to me as a teacher and asks what I'm doing. And if you can learn something from me, then great. I'm glad that. I'm trying to give you what I was taught by T and Do and experienced after that. During that, before that, during that, and after that. So if it's beneficial to you, I'm glad. Thank you. But Do is the older member. I wouldn't ever want anybody to, think in their silence about asking me a question, unless they just want to bring it to my stream and ask me, but not that I'm the authority on it, like Do is. And Do wouldn't consider himself an authority, because he compares himself to T, because he knows that when T would say something, it was at least or more potent. I mean, you really can't just compare it like, black and white, but because she was an older member is a big step above a younger member. It's like an evolutionary step. It is. Because it starts in the human kingdom. And the human kingdom is evolutionarily, of mind and body, as different as the animal kingdom is from human. But humans have no excuses for not being better and acting in ways that are beneath them when they should know better. It's only the sick, the humans that are sick in the head or the body or the body.
Bit of a parade.
Oh, it's time for the parade in the background.
It was just like 6 carts. They're done.
That's it?
Well, it was canceled.
Oh, it's canceled. That's right. Tell me that.
Thank goodness.
For the weather?
Thank goodness, because it would have been a lot more.
Yeah. Aaron Nathaniel's here, says hello. Hello to you. Hairline check. I don't know. Maybe I touched my hair? I don't know. That may mean something? I don't know what it means. Learster says, grab a beer. No, I can't handle it. It's not that great to me. I used to have a beer when I went to a gathering, and if to provide people. This is after the classroom, and a lot of times I would smoke before I went to it, because there weren't smokers, weed smokers I'm talking about. So I would do that ahead of time, and then have a beer with the people. Because it was illegal in those days in that state as well. Men Who Stare at Goats. You watched that movie, Double the God Says.
Oh, that is a movie.
I remember that. I mean, the name. I don't remember the movie much. It's about remote seeing and body phasing through solid objects. Yeah, now I don't know if the next level, I don't know if next level members go with their next level grown, denser physical vehicles that are not flesh dense. I don't know if they can go through physical dense material like solid objects, what we call solid objects. I know that Tiendo felt like the movie Ghost, I think T was still in the classroom with her physical body at that time, but where they depicted the ghost not knowing that they could go right through the wall of the subway car and right through another human, that there was a reality to that in Tiendo's mind, that spirits that die are no different than the way they were when they were living. And so when they were living, they didn't think that they could take their vehicle through another vehicle. They wouldn't do that. Now, I don't know if they would happen upon it, if it would happen, but even if it happened, they might not register that it happened because they never had that experience. But then again, maybe they can register that it happened, and maybe they could. I don't know how that works exactly. How those discarnates, in whatever framework they are, and whatever like bubble of plasma that containing like plasma mind structures, the memories of the. I don't know if it's the memories of the vehicle or the experiences, like which are memories too. But like for instance, the examples that were given by Tiendo is that let's say you were. Well, one example was, let's say you were the president of the United States. Then you've gathered to yourself an entourage of discarnates that are giving you, and you're still potentially interfacing with, not knowing it, thinking it's your thoughts, your ideas, when it could very well be these influences wanting you to like pay attention to your diction or not use certain words with certain people because you're going to trigger them to be against you. You know, the politics, you know, the propaganda machines. To be cautious of those things. You know, you could have discarnates helping you monitor that, so you don't say something in the public that gets you crucified later. Crucified is not the word for that, but you know, get you in the courts later, or lose the election or something. You know, so you don't want to tell the truth. So you got influences potentially helping you with that, and then you become that as you accept those techniques of staying away from certain terminology, blah 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 blah, and the whole big long thing. You know, actually how to carry yourself when you walk. You know, in the royal families, they teach their children all those things. They teach them to, you know, be good with a sword, and that's part of protection, you know, as well. You know, in those days especially. But they teach them to, you know, eat properly and not chew with their mouth open. I was always told that, you know, why are you chewing with your mouth open? You know, I'm not saying that it's good to, because some of those things are more refined in certain ways than other things. Like, you know, we're more evolved than, we don't have to go into the jungle and try to find an animal to eat and then tear it apart and then cook it on a fire and then, you know, scarf it down. That's happening hopefully in a more civilized way, but it's not necessarily. But it may be sometimes happening. And those are the choices the humans are making, though, on how to do things. And when they compromise doing things in a better way because they don't want to have the expense of it. And so they sacrifice humans and they sacrifice animals to their desires, and the corporate dollars, you know, is a big part of that. It becomes unfeeling. It's a beast. It is kind of like, you know, T and Doe did talk about how Lucy's corporation, Lucy had a corporation. And he also said that the next level is, think of the next level as a corporation as well. In other words, it's an organized structure. It's got its behaviors and ways. You know, if you get a job at certain places, you can't wear certain clothing. You can't leave with your clothing on if you wear certain clothing in the facility. And in the military, you've got to dress the way they dress when it's time to dress the way they dress. Otherwise, they wonder why you're not obeying. You're not disciplining yourself. Maybe you're not on board. Maybe we can't count on you. We can't trust you. So that's where I started in the beginning of the stream talking about the degrees of things that Doe was talking about in tape 420 that were important to the classroom, because the classroom was learning to be part of an elite society. They're not elite in the context of looking down on people any more than a good parent would look down on their child. They know the child doesn't know some things, a lot of things. They know the child doesn't have some experiences. But then again, they don't know what that child received in the genes that they're not expressing, and that they're using as part of how they're interpreting what's happening to them as they're growing and what they're exposed to as they're growing. To where they see better than the parents about some things. Like, for instance, the war in Vietnam was an example of that, where many people weren't going to be a part of that. And so they started going to Canada, started being willing to go to jail for a period of time, or willing to act like they were crazy in front of when they went to their initial meeting for the draft, and so that they were, some people actually, I think, took off an appendage or something like that to get out of it. I've heard of that. I never knew anybody that did that, but my cousin had a missing finger, and he didn't go. I don't know if it was that was the reason, because he was older than me, so he would have had to go to Vietnam. But anyway, I'll get past that. But so remote seeing. I'm not saying there's not. It would be stupid of me to say that there is not a capacity to remotely witness something else that's separated by distance or walls or whatever they are experimenting with in the MK Ultra program and the other programs that have been going on for decades, trying to explore the what some people call the pseudosciences, because they don't really have scientific documentation of these things as being remotely being able to view something. But what are dreams a lot of times? But like kind of a form of, I've had dreams where I felt like the night I had kind of a horrible dream that people were dying in a car that I was in or very close to observing, and then another part of that was that some babies were being almost like popped out of people. I mean, like three bodies came out of this one person in this. I think it was 3. And I didn't see the person at all. I just knew that that's what was happening. I didn't, I didn't see the images vividly of what was all entailed with that. Or if I did, I didn't remember it. And then, but I've had many dreams where if my life had to, if I had to bet my life on it, and that if it wasn't true, I would die, or something like that. I would say that that Doe and T and a number of students have communicated with me through dreams. Now that doesn't mean I interpreted it correctly, but it seems like from experience, the dreams always had more in them than I remembered. And I was trying to remember the dream when I woke up. And I felt like I could remember it really well, and then it started to fade, and I lost it. But I remained remembering something that was very key to it, to the subject of the dream, and which was often answer to my questions. And I don't want to talk about them because right now I've talked about them and they're probably all posted on my blog. If you search on the word dream, maybe you'll come across a bunch of them. SawyerHG.wordpress.com. Because some people think if I start talking about that, now I'm painting myself as this, great seer because I've got dreams of the next level. So now I can say that they told me to do this or they told me to do that. And they didn't tell me to do anything in the dreams that I had. And I had probably about a dozen of them over time, over a course of a year or two, I would just guess. But after I left the group. And anyway, so dreams to me is an example potentially of something that we know is the reality, that we can't see and touch and determine where it came from. Sometimes we can get clues of it, and that can be part of it. But Tian Do said that the next level uses dreams to help people with their next day's lessons. So you can be given something in a dream and not even know it. But then all of a sudden, the next day, you start thinking, maybe I should do this, or that's a really interesting story there on the internet that I'm reading, and I was never interested in it before in that way. I'm seeing it in a different light. We never know how much prep went into the things that we end up embracing or participating in or looking at and thinking about. And, and there are, in my opinion, existing entities that are against us, or against all humans. They're becoming better than they are, and becoming clearer. Clearer was another word that Do used in his tape 420, talking about getting clear on what you actually are, so that you're not living a lie. I'll give you the example of what that means. In the classroom, at one stage, early on, while T was still in her vehicle, it was clearly from both of them, that we had partnerships assigned to us. Somebody else that joined that whether it was at the same time as us or not, that you had different kinds of partners. You had craft partners, which meant whenever you were in the craft, that was your partner. In the house where we were living, or the campsite where we had big tents and 30 small tents with 2 huge tents and generators for electric and all kinds of a satellite dish. At one point in Arizona, we had which we were watching broadcasts from the Christians, like I started to talk about before, to see if what we could get from how to communicate with them, so that they could open up to the idea that maybe they came back, like they said they would. And this is them. This is them in those scriptures, and why not? Of course, if you look at it a certain way, by the way that we're taught to hear it, it could be true, like the 2 witnesses part of the Revelation 11, and it can be true on a number of levels at the same time. Like they had the capacity to stop the rain. And whether they did it or not, it just so happens that they used the descriptions of what they could do and how they would be based on things that can be seen as originating from Elijah and Moses. And the bringing on of the plagues was an example of that, which was also said that they had the power to do. And didn't say when they were going to do it, didn't say exactly what they were going to do, they didn't say how they were going to do it, and how it would be received by the humans, how they were going to interpret what was being said and done and demonstrated and felt. And so why couldn't it, why does that have to be a disqualification of them being the 2 witnesses? And I can go through that for another hour and I have made some videos that are on my channel here, 3SPM, that try to give some of those ideas to folks that are interested. But so Doe did start. He bought a bunch of Bibles. I'm getting off the track of that point that he made. What was it again? Oh, I almost lost it again.
It was about the scripture. And finding the scripture that proved something.
Oh yeah, he had a crew. I think it was just two individuals. What was it? Pam Odie and Stan Odie and Melody? No,
Melody.
Melody and Stan Odie, I think. Could be wrong. But they were assigned a task, and this is going to get to the overseer task as well. We need to get to that. I need to get to that. But
You're so cute.
oh yeah. You can probably see a little haze go by here because Kathy just took a toke.
Well, it went that.
She blew it towards me. Anyway, so since he was considering that he might want him to go public again, want us to go public again, because it was the whole mission that he was talking about, thinking about, and how to do that, when, where we were going to be, what we were going to say, and whether to put it into religious terminology or not, was the basis of him doing Undercover Jesus, and then doing then doing Extraterrestrials with the final. I forgot the name of that. I used to be able to quote it. I forgot it, but they were both put out together, and it even talks about that in the book, that these were made together, one after the other.
Statement or something?
Huh?
95 statement.
Yeah.
Extraterrestrials.
From an ET presently incarnate. Right. Which he uses a tiny, tiny bit of spiritual words like incarnate, for example. Because he didn't want to totally lose it, because that shows the context of the whole idea of extraterrestrials being people from other planets or a different kingdom level of life. Like the way that, isn't it interesting that even in the science classes, at one point they talked about the four kingdom levels of life being mineral, plant, animal, and human. I might be wrong about that, but in some places I believe it was taught that way in the science classes that weren't religious classes, but they used the word kingdom. Why would they do that? Except, and then you hear Christians, when I use the word kingdom, when I'm talking to some Christians on the internet, which I did a lot of 10 years ago, and before that, after that, but I would use the word kingdom, and they would say that meant the authority. It was the authority of God, not the kingdom of God. It didn't mean many-membered. They would think, when you would say it's a many-membered kingdom, they would think, what? There's God, and then there's Jesus, and then there's the Holy Spirit. That's all there is. And then you would say, well, what about the angels? Oh, well, they're just the angels. And what about the archangels? Well, they're just the archangels. That's just part of the belief, right? That's from the Old Testament, and it is, and as well. But when you look up the word archangel, when it's used in some of the documents from Daniel and in the New Testament, you find out that in some of the better translations, because there's a couple of different ways that people have tried to translate from the Greek. Of course, that was a translation to the Greek, I guess, from the Aramaic mostly. But you see that it was talking about living beings. Or I missed actually what I was going towards. what was it? Let's see. In those places where angels were depicted as flying, you know, like Cupid and stuff like that, they were babies. They were new members of the next level. So to the next level, they're newborns, and Jesus uses that terminology that you're going to be born again into water, which is the water birth, which is the sack of water that the fetus is suspended in, and then from that experience, you can be born of spirit, which is the word mind is the more accurate way of thinking about it, instead of spirit being this nebulousness. But in the records, if you go into the Greek, you see that the word spirit, pneuma, is also related to breath and wind. And then you can find all kinds of ways of seeing all that connection, all those connections. My book has a lot of this in it. And there's a lot of things that I missed in it. I know, because I've recognized things more since I wrote that book. But what Doe referred to was, let's see. I missed that one spot, I think. Well, let me go back to the chat. Maybe I'll remember. I believe I recently watched the movie Men Who Stare at Goats. Oh, I read that one already. Sorry. And I thought you longed to have those thoughts. And I thought you longed to have those thoughts from Aaron Nathaniel. So is that, I mean, the way you wrote that makes me feel like you're telling me that I don't have those thoughts.
I don't think that's what he's saying.
Okay, I don't know. I'm just taking it that way because sometimes I don't. It's clear that I don't. I do long to have those thoughts.
Yeah. That's what
So I don't know why you would say it that way, but maybe there's a language barrier or something. I don't know.
the bird is dead.
I'm just misinterpreting it, huh?
The bird is dead.
Oh,
She just died.
I'm sorry. She had an amazing experience in the end with a human being
Yeah.
that cared about her.
She had some convulsions and then
Oh, she did? She was kind of having those mini ones, right? All along. Well, I don't know about all along, but
I don't know how long she'd been sick for, but she came to me to pass, I guess.
yeah. Yeah.
It's okay. You called it. When you knew that she wanted water before, I figured, yeah.
I mean, I had hoped that she would, like get over it like we get over a cold.
I think the good thing is that she's not out there with the other birds to infect them.
Uh-huh.
Because I'm pretty sure it's avian flu.
Oh, really? Okay.
Based on the description.
Right,
she
you
had
looked
the-
at all that up,
Yeah,
yeah.
she had the exact
Yeah, all
same-
those characteristics too,
all of them.
they mentioned.
Every single one.
Yeah.
Maybe the consolation is that it's a youth.
It's what?
It's a youth. You know, it's a juvenile, so maybe because it's highly contagious
Mm.
through birds,
Yeah,
and it'll kill them all.
yeah. If it spreads.
So I'm gonna throw all this food away. I threw all the branches away. There's not that much food on that one tray, so I'll dump that because the saliva
Yeah,
is what.
I know. When they're pecking at stuff,
Yeah.
they're basically sharing their DNA with whatever they don't eat or.
Well, I figured at the end there, for the last 10 minutes, there was a lot of saliva pooling up around the beak. So I thought, yeah, she's
Yeah,
going.
yeah.
It's okay. We've had a death in the aviation family.
Someone says, "Hi, brother. Are you a hillbilly?" Well,
Somebody from Mark Stream.
I was a hillbilly. I was, but I wasn't a Billy. I was a Hill Steven. That's my vehicle's name. Hillstepon. How does that sound? Or Stefan. Some people would call me sometimes. So, by the way, hi Kathy, love you, and hello Sawyer from
Who's that?
Double the God, Double the God.
Hello.
No, double, yeah, double other God, other, huh? Double off the God, double O the God, double O the God. Okay, I'm not going to beat that to death. Joseph says different angle you're filming from. Yeah. Right. I'm in my RV. Right, right. You don't see this angle from the Kathy streams that we do, Kathy and Sawyer streams we do.
Well, and normally you don't stream from there either, right?
Right, I don't normally stream here either. We changed our setup in that regard. So now I'm facing a different window. Joseph says, sipping on a little wine tonight.
Oh,
Thought
you did.
my cousin was coming over, but I guess not.
You did go to the store and get that one.
Okay.
huh? I see.
Well, I hope you have a good time. If you come into our stream, because that's what we plan to do. It's really hot right now. I'm like burning up. Are you?
Yeah.
I'm okay with it. It's all right.
I'm having a hot flash
Oh yeah.
as well.
Thumbs up from Warrior of Truth. Thank you.
Oh, hey, Warrior of Truth.
And Joseph says not going to go for a walk because the rain tonight. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Case Blizz
Hey, girl.
says, hey guys, hugs. Thank you, Kates. Kate, I said Kates. Sorry. It's not more than one person.
First person we
It's
met.
one Kate, yes. First person Kathy and I met together when we went on the road. With a mission. We had a mission.
We did. And I think that we did.
We still have that mission. Oh, look at that. You can take a picture?
I don't know. I feel bad. I was somewhat prepared for the passing.
What do you think to do with the vehicle, the body?
I don't know. I don't want the other birds to.
Right.
This is interesting.
Wow.
Yeah. How pretty that is.
Yeah. So Just Burhan says, do you ever think that there's a possibility that teachings of Tiendo might be wrong and all of the students have been brainwashed? For sure.
I confront him with that
Yeah.
almost daily sometimes.
Yeah.
But I have backed
But
off.
what if it's right?
Yeah,
There's probably millions of people who think the way you're thinking about it. As that, what do you ever think about that? I mean, but think about how few people actually talk about what they believed and what they did, and except for the way they exited. How many people actually want to hear what's in the content of the audio tapes that led to the way they exited? If you want to look at it that
knows
way.
what they believe. That's what led me to.
Talk about brainwashing. Okay, who's brainwashed more? The people that don't know they're brainwashed? Or the people that know they're washing their brain out of their humanness, which is what the class was doing. And did they not change almost everything about what they did? That was different than human. They no longer wanted to participate in any human family relationships, except so that those family relationships wouldn't go against them, to try to stop them from doing what they wanted to do, and so that those family members didn't suffer because of their absence or thinking that they were brainwashed and being held by evil people against their will, to relieve them of that. That's why we had visits in 1985. That anxiety they were trying to relieve from them. That's what T said was the reason, the primary reason for the first visit that we went on with the parents, which was a weekend in 1985, I think. The same year in which T left her vehicle. After those visits, I think. Not too long after that, I think. I might be wrong. It might have been 1984 when that happened. And T left on June 19th, 1985, her vehicle. So, and T leaving her vehicle certainly presented everybody with the opportunity to think about whether there was something else they wanted to do, whether they believed in all this or not. T and Do talk about it in many tapes, how every once in a while they felt like they had instruction from their older members who were not in human vehicles to think about whether there was something in the human kingdom they wanted, different than what they were doing. And so they would have us think about that every once in a while. And maybe it happened 5 times while I was in the classroom for 19 years, that they said, okay, stop your discipline on blocking out the past. That's another way of getting rid of the brainwashing of the human kingdom, right? Doesn't that make sense? But guess what? They didn't make it happen. They didn't make you do it. They couldn't make you do it. They even said that they wished they could make us do it because of what we were gained from it. But it didn't work that way. We had to experience it. What's that?
They could put you to sleep and play
Yes. Kathy remembers in the tape where they said they wished they could put you to sleep and play a tape and that you would absorb it all. But it doesn't work that way.
because it has
Good.
to come through your conscious mind.
Right, it has to come through your conscious mind. Very well said. Thank you for that.
I didn't say that. T and Do did.
No, I know, but you remembered them saying that, and I wasn't going to go there. I was going to say it has to come from your experience, which is the experience of your conscious mind. Choosing to not have that thought anymore. Choosing to not have that behavior anymore. Repeatedly, day in and day out. Think about the things that any one human probably thinks about during the day. Think about if you were going to stop all those thoughts and just think about what you were given to think about in the framework of, let's say, the science lab or the religion teachings. And that was the only way that you were going to think anymore. You'd be brainwashing yourself to only think that way, right? Now, somebody could tell you to do that. They can say that if you read the Bible, then you will become holy. You will become one of the saved. You will go to heaven. You will have eternal life. Okay? They don't tell you about all the battles that you're going to have with that idea. The many, many, many thousands and thousands of battles that you're going to have in your head when you have a doubt about what you're being told. Like if you question the scriptures, all of a sudden now you're questioning God. That's not from the next level mind to think that way. Questioning things is honest. It's a good thing. If you're questioning something, then you're saying this to me is showing me that you're questioning what I'm saying. And that's fine. Because you're not only questioning whether I've questioned my thoughts, you wouldn't be saying that if you weren't questioning yourself, questioning what I'm saying. I think. I could be wrong about that. But Doe had an uncanny way of getting right to the source of the problem, or the source of what we said and did. And that's why I was starting to talk about it, and I'm going to continue to talk about it. We were put in partnerships. And the idea of the partnership was to reveal to us the things about us that we don't see in ourselves. But somebody else can see better. Sometimes better. Not all the time better. Because we can see some things about ourselves. But there's going to be things that come out of our mouth in a certain way that somebody might say, that's not negative. That's just reality. When it's really a negative. And it takes another person to say, you know what? That's a very big negative. And you didn't get that from T and Doe's mind. And if you were in the classroom, you wouldn't say that to the person that way, because you don't want to inflame the person. You want to give them a chance to have a open response to where they question their own judgment. But what happened in the classroom when certain classmates, or a lot of classmates, were saying things to their partner that didn't seem to be next level behavior and ways, because there was a range of thinking about that. There's a whole bunch of categories of that thinking that you can see in the major offense list and the lesser offense list in Heaven's Gate book. You can see all the behaviors and ways that they were against, and they were trying to upgrade to new behaviors and ways. Okay? So in order to wash our brains out of those old behaviors and ways, like for instance, to me, it's a very old behavior and way to think that a human has the right to kill another human for any reason. I'm not saying in self-defense. I'm not saying, as a mercy killing. I'm not saying, in order to keep somebody else from killing somebody that you love. I'm not saying things like that. You can't boil everything down to. It doesn't necessarily work for every circumstance that can exist. T and Doe were tremendous examples of saying things in answer to a question that answered the question and then gave another point of view that was totally different but had even more meaning to it in a lot of ways. If you could perceive it, if you could hear it, if you were willing to consider it. But if you're not willing to consider it and hear it and all that, then you're never going to know. So I say to individuals, I'm doing my stream because I believe it. But believe alone isn't worth that much. I mean, it is if we're sharing the things that were given by T and Doe, instead of making it look like we're abiding by them and we're not doing those things. We're not demonstrating all those same things. We're not wearing our collars buttoned. We're not wearing we're not eating the same foods. Which they ate all the foods pretty much, different diets, even from fasting on water, for 13 days. Which, so I mean, what are you going to pick if you're going to try to duplicate their diet? But that's what happens. That's what the religions do, to where then they say that you can't eat pork, or you can't eat this, or can't eat that, when that might have been a bad thing to eat at that time. for some reason. I don't know. But it could have also been something that Moses' older member, which was, in my opinion, T. Not T, because T didn't exist then, but the same mind that was an older member of the next level at that point, and was giving Doe the experience of working through Moses' vehicle as part of his growth opportunity. That was serving the students coming up into that family. It's a real family. That's why Jesus talked about his human family as not his family. He said, these believers, this is my family, he said, when his vehicle's mother came up to him. And they didn't come up to him. Someone else, a student came up to him and said, your mother and your brother are over here. I don't know if the student expected, if the mother and brother said, go tell them we're here, maybe that was supposed to happen. But Jesus used it as an opportunity to, talk about who his real family was. That's why he said that for those that left everything behind, including family members, that they would have 1,000-fold in the next level, because they would have 1,000 members of their family if they became members of the next level. But that wasn't putting down the family. That wasn't treating the family badly. That didn't mean that people that didn't leave everything behind were condemned anything. They just weren't in that particular grade in school. Because as the thinking goes, there are grades in school in the human kingdom, and the 12th grade is when people are starting to think about that there might be something more, or feeling it, or just searching for different ways of thinking and behaviors and spiritual beliefs, and is part of that more. The search, and then if you find something that makes sense to you from somebody, then as long as it's making sense to you, and as long as it's benefiting you in some way, even if it doesn't make sense at first, maybe it starts to make sense after some more human experience, and then if it continues to make sense, then keep on with that source of information. That's what T and O said that they would do if they met somebody that knew more than they knew. And talking about this subject, not talking about people that know how to build a car and that they don't know how to build and blah, 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 like that kind of knowing. That's another type of knowing. But, and even that has expansiveness to it. And so that everybody that knows how to build a car doesn't know how to build it as well as the other person, necessarily, unless they had personal experience with certain things that taught them things that the others didn't get. That happens with everything in life. That's why the whole human kingdom is a school. And as soon as we think that we're the master of something, we're recognizing how really little we know about it. What?
There's a rainbow out there.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Well, that's nice. That reminds me.
Right in front of us. Right there.
Oh yeah, very nice. I haven't seen a rainbow in a long time.
I know, it's for a little girl.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I guess that's possible. I mean, T and O did talk a little bit about how a member of the animal kingdom is lifted up by becoming a part of the human kingdom. And there's even that Gospel of Thomas that had that one thing in it. I think it was that, or maybe the Gospel of Philip that weren't in the Bible. You know, I'm not saying they should have been, but because the next level had a hand in what was included, what was needed to be included, and I guess they allowed the option to have Paul's writings because they knew that they would become the foundation of the religion that would be off track, so that the people that were coming up, that were the reincarnation of the people that absorbed the next level information in the past, would recognize the same characteristics being talked about of members of the next level. So that when the older members came and took vehicles again, or one or two in this case, now, and sort of saying the same kind of things in the current lingo, that some individuals would, well, you think about that and think, there's something about that that's interesting. I'm curious about that. You know, you know, and then look into it more instead of just being curious and letting it go. Or maybe a year later, they'll see it again, like the Heaven's Gate story on the news, and they'll say, wow, the first time I saw that, I remember the first time I saw that, I wondered about that, and I wondered about this. So what was that? And so they went through things in their life that put them in a position to where they had the time and energy more, or they had experienced certain struggles that they got past in a large way. And so now they were ready to learn more, see more. And that's the way it is every day, potentially, with all of us. We can all learn more and see more, so that our eyes are actually literally seeing more of the matter that we don't understand. It's the way that it's composed. Exactly. Or that our vehicle isn't capable of seeing that anymore for a number of reasons. Or the brain is incapable of accessing that information for a number of reasons, including the chemical composure of the vehicle. We all know that if you put certain substances in your mind, in your body, it results in, you can put yourself to sleep, right? Can you see when you're asleep? Hardly. You can drink so much alcohol that you black out and you don't even remember what you did the next day. I know this is a fact because Kathy experienced it. I never experienced that. But she experienced it a number of times because she got very into using alcohol. Now she doesn't because her kidneys and her liver are detrimentally affected by it. And that's the way that the next level has, it seems to be built in, that we can overuse things. We can use and overuse things. We drank alcohol in the classroom one time that I remember. I think it was the time after we had while I was in the classroom, we had two kind of formal Christmas celebrations. One was before T left her vehicle, so T was part of it. And the other one was after T left her vehicle, the Christmas after she left her vehicle. And that one, we had a buffet, the same as we did when we had the Christmas celebration with T. And I don't know that Doe gave us money to go buy gifts for the craft, which was the instruction. but that's what we were given money that, well, T had the first celebration. But during that second one, when T wasn't there, Doe said that he felt like he wanted to try to drink a little, I think it was wine. So he got a shot glass. He got a couple shot glasses. I don't know how many he got because there was probably close to 30 of us there. And he filled it halfway with wine, and he began to drink it. And he sipped it down, and then we also had it, not the same glass, a different, our little thing, and he said it was optional, so you didn't have to do it. But we got a lesson later that if your older member gave you the option, and your older member did it, then you would at least want to try a sip of it, because you would trust that your older member wouldn't give your vehicle something that would cause it harm in a major way of any kind. Doe didn't like the way it made him feel,
Volume.
so he didn't do it again. Sorry. Yeah, I don't want the people around us to hear me.
Oh, there's nobody here. They're all out doing stuff.
Oh, okay.
But you do need to wrap it up.
Yeah, I do need to wrap it up. Doubts are, of course, part of the process. Yes, I agree with you, Aaron Nathaniel. Joseph Coates says, totally unrelated, but rapper Liz Uzi Vert just put out a new project. He was the initial reason I found out about Heaven's Gate years ago.
Wow.
That's Joseph saying this? Wow. That's great to hear. I mean, I'm saying it's great to hear because, not because of what he put out. I don't know what he put out. I didn't like what he put out before. But when Mark and Sarah went against it, and they threatened to sue him for putting it out, at the time I thought, well, I don't know if this is what T and Doe would have us do. I mean, I didn't like what he was saying. He was putting himself in the position of being the Father and Jesus, both, I guess, somehow.
Everybody.
Yeah. So it was kind
And
of
the Holy
crazy.
Spirit.
And he was using the same presentation as was on the Heaven's Gate website. So yeah, and the Holy Spirit, all of it. So then I let it go. I wasn't thinking about it that much. And it occurred to me, because I was asking about it. In my mind, I was asking T and Doe if this was, what to do about this, if anything. And Mark and Sarah were better at that than I was in terms of, hearing what people were saying. And then, because for a while, I wasn't doing anything for years while they were managing the website and sending tapes out to people and things like that. But I knew they were, I really didn't agree with a number of things that Mark and Sarah were doing already, and I made that known in different ways. And so then I thought, well, maybe that is the right thing to do, Tim. And then I thought also that, well, maybe so, but maybe both is the case. Maybe that the next level would allow that to happen, because they allow all kinds of things to happen all the time that they don't really want to happen. But so that we can get growth from it and make choices because of it.
Thank you. Look at my double chin. Does it look smaller?
It does, and you're
Well, I got to finish this thought at least, Kathy.
I'm going
Really?
outside.
Okay. Hi, Aaron.
Your big daddy baby. Wait, big baby daddy is streaming.
Big baby
Okay, you go
daddy.
on there and like his stream.
Okay.
And I took some screenshots so I can masturbate later.
Shut up! I'm still in the.
Oh, stop that. Silly.
Who knows?
Aaron is silly. Anyway,
And
So I thought at the time about, let's say he was allowed to use that first thing he did, or some modification of it, okay? I wondered at the time whether that would bring more attention to his fans.
I don't know what happened to that.
That's why he was doing that. There'd be some that would wonder where he got that from, because it became a controversy, right? And that would be a reason for somebody to actually look into as a potential, the Tiando information. That's where the idea that a negative can be made into a positive has some of its ultimate expansive application. And that's why Tiando were depicted as evil, and Do especially, because some people think that, you know, T wouldn't have used that method to exit. And they said very well that they had the position was against the S word because humans need their bodies to grow by, to have lessons from. And they knew that their students had years of lessons, accelerated lessons. And it's very difficult to accelerate some lessons, learning. It's not hard to accelerate the lesson opportunities, but it's hard to accelerate the learning from it. And Tape 420 also talks about that. Points out to the students, some of the students like Dust Odie and Stam Odie and Press Odie and Star Odie and others were directly given little lessons on the magnitude of even the little things. Like if you allow little thoughts that are negative to exist in your mind, negative in the context of putting yourself down or putting somebody else down, not because of their bad behavior, but because of the way they think, or they don't think, the way they don't think, or they haven't accomplished that you consider to be a great accomplishment, or that person even thinks of as a great accomplishment that they haven't achieved, and now they're being told by somebody else how bad they are, how insignificant they are, when they're not insignificant, unless they never draw into themselves something that's truly above human significant, even though it's trickling through the human kingdom as treating one another the way that we want to be treated, or as forgiving your neighbor for their trespasses against you. How many times? 70 times 7, not just 7, like it talked about in the framework of the classroom of the Old Testament during the Moses experience with probably close to 1 million humans. I wondered the other day of the real reason why the Pharaoh went after the slaves that were his slaves was significantly because of the gold that vanished. That I guess the Jews had, the Jewish people at that time that were his slaves had access to. I don't know if they were assigned to make things out of gold or some combination that they were able to melt together, because they did things like that. They they had fire, so they could have a fire that was hotter and hotter. to melt. They learned that they could melt gold. They supposedly did that in the camp there after they got to a safe place from trying to escape the army and the military of the Egyptians at the time. As the story goes, which I don't have any reason to think that story is all made up. There's parts of it that are made up. There's parts of it that are exaggerated. There's parts of it that are depicted in one way when they actually applied in a different way, the context of it. More or additional interpretations that all had their value, or many of the interpretations of words could work in certain circumstances so that you could actually see a totally different picture of what was being talked about. But that's hidden from you if you don't know what to look for. And I have to say that I feel like I was given some big clues that stuck out to me when I would read certain passages in the Old Testament and the New Testament as well. Maybe this wasn't accurate, actually, because Tino said that there were things in there that were manipulated. Because the lower forces always come in after the older member leaves, being that older member, soul, that used the vehicle Moses, and according to T, also used the vehicle Enoch and Adam to start the experiment, that part of the experiment, not the experiment of generating humanoid life, but the part of the experiment that was generating human behavior differences with next level behavior. That's what the experiment was, to see if Adam would take the bait. Not from Eve, but from the Luciferian space alien fallen angel soul that was there, literally there. I don't know if they could see the individual in some kind of physical form. It's possible. The next level could have seen to it that they could see somebody there and be influenced by their mind. Their minds aren't weak. They have very strong minds. But compared to a member of the next level, it's a very weak mind. It's even weaker than many human minds because they don't think that there's a next level anymore. And at least many humans believe that there are creators of this planet and the life forms on it. And there is a purpose to life beyond anything we can currently and during. There's a purpose to life during and after, potentially. That purpose could end up being fertilizer for the next crop of roses. Roses being depicting, Doe's favorite Christmas carol was Lo How a Rose, which I found out was T's favorite Christmas carol, but I didn't know that right away. Because Doe didn't tell us that when he taught us to sing that, because we sang in the 4-part harmonies, that T instigated. Doe didn't want to instigate something related to music, because he was a musician. He played piano very well. I saw one time where he played, I don't know, half dozen bars on piano. That looked like it was all over the place, melody and harmony and chords and all that. So he knew what he was doing. He could just do it. I mean, I can play flute that way somewhat. I'm not saying it always sounds good. That's what one of the benefits of a piano is, that the note itself is going to pretty much sound the same way every time in combination with the other notes. With a flute, it's not the case. You got to make the flute's sound get closer and closer to the note that you want to sound. And I make mistakes all the time when I do the stream with Kathy that I consider to be mistakes, but someone else isn't going to necessarily see them as mistakes unless they learn to listen in a way that can hear them. And some people do not have that. They do know when I'm playing off key. And they suspect sometimes when I'm changing the note and slurring it into another note that is in key, which I do that as well. So some of them might be the ones that say that things aren't in key when they're not pitch perfect. Because to me, that's like a disease if you're pitch perfect and then you expect because there's a range in music. Even in the way that music is the nomenclature of the notes. There's 100 cents, CENTS, to the distance between whole notes. And that boils down to frequencies. So like the frequency 440 in the United States at least is considered the note A, the major note in the scale A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And Do took the beginning note. So in the scale of C, he's the note C. But T is the note G. C, D, E, F, G. No, I guess, I don't know. But they have us focus on the note A. I don't know if Do was considered to be, by Do, represented by the note D.
I don't know if I'm gonna ask him to shave his face. He looks very different with his shaved face.
No, Do would be the beginning of every scale. He'd be the first note in the scale. Using the example of Do, Re, Mi, Fa, Sol, La, Ti, Do as a 7-note scale. So sometimes in some scales, there's half notes in there. And even in that major scale, there's half notes with the note B and the note F. Like there's no F flat, and there's no A sharp for B and, well no, for F and B. Anyway, that's just a little bit of music stuff that I'm not claiming to be a really good music theorist. I'm not. I can read music, but I don't do it fast and well. So I don't even really try. So then there's Bray Hope Official. What's your meaning of life is... What is your meaning of life? That we are in a school. And that the lessons that we get through life, the choices that we make, the way that we act towards others and towards ourselves, and think about ourselves and others, and the things that we do with our bodies and with our minds, and the things especially that we are sharing with others. Are especially important to be from Tiendo's mind. Of course, that doesn't mean if I share that what I'm doing on the stream with Kathy, I'm not saying that's from Tiendo's mind. The best way of determining what's from Tiendo's mind is not from my mouth. The best way is from the book, the Beyond Human series of videotapes, Not in this order. In fact, I'd put the Beyond Human series videotapes first because you can actually see Doe talking and explaining things. Where the book, it's not as it's not as relatable in some ways because it's mostly the bottom lines of 24 years of their teachings through their vehicles that they gave in relationship to their own experiences with their vehicle.
Baby,
Yeah.
are you done? Are you done?
No. There's a few more comments here. Let me see if I can get through
You were just
more quickly.
Yes, you do need to second it up. I gotta figure out what is this doing on my phone? That was weird. Or
Good evening, Mr. Flauser.
that
Someone, Mark O'Farrell says. Okay. I like your music, says Mr. Pet. How are
hey,
you?
Mr. Pallid.
Oh, okay.
We are gonna stream.
How are you movie stars doing?
We are
Mr. Pallett said.
Pallid. We are good, but the bird died.
Yeah. Did you hear from Mr. Pallett on your shorts?
On the other one, we said that we reminded him of a hippie
Oh, yeah.
60s duo.
And
I
then
don't
Joseph.
know.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, I'm good.
So Joseph says that he guess his cousin is coming over today, just in a couple more hours. It's almost
Oh,
night
okay.
time in Georgia.
He's
No,
not
in
gonna-
California.
He's not going to ditch you. Well,
No,
it's 2 hours earlier there, right? Joseph, what time is there?
California, it's 3 hours difference than here.
Yeah. So there's not almost night there. It's almost night here. I still got 3 hours.
Right. So good. Yeah, I just didn't read it all. Let me see. Where is it? He said I could have hung with someone else the first half of my day. On deck with Scott Sarpolis.
Oh,
Good
hey.
talk tonight, he says.
Hey, Scott.
Oh yeah? Okay. Now I know who some of these folks are. When Kathy just says Scott on the stream, I don't think that the person had a big name like On Deck with Scott Scarpolis. So
I'm saying that first, but
yeah.
it's a little
Good
bit-
talk tonight, especially about the dreams. Oh, that's good.
Yeah, that is nice to hear.
What are you and Kathy up to tonight? Joseph said. We think we're going to stream, I guess.
We're gonna sing and dance.
Yeah. Oh wow. What? That's when you first met Kathy. Yeah, I guess that's what I was talking about at that point. Right. When I was in with the weed there in my house
Yes,
in
that
the
was.
mountains.
Yep, that's when we first met.
Right.
He proposed to me.
I did. I'm a silly
He
romantic, I
proposed
guess.
to me in a weed tent. He had a tent set up with all of the plants hanging upside down because they had to dry out. And I came back to help him chop them all up and harvest the buds.
And harvest the buds. Yeah. Oh, Joseph says I saw her post and the little bird.
Yeah, the bird died.
Yeah, the bird passed away.
Which made me
And I was going to
think
say
about
before
some
that,
things.
that there is each of the evolutionary kingdoms has development towards the next in some way, shape, or form. I don't know how to talk about that logically, except that Tino talked about that as if a domesticated animal, that a baby in that family that could have had a domesticated animal associated with it is taking in, by reacting acting with that domesticated animal, some of their mind is influencing the newborn. Yeah, to like dogs, for instance, or like cats, or birds, or whatever the animals are. They're species of animal that humans domesticate, and it's not for, it's not necessarily accidental how that happens.
I firmly believe that this bird,
Fish too.
I firmly believe that this little one, it is a juvenile, like the equivalent of maybe 10 years old, and I'm pretty sure it did have bird flu, and which is highly contagious between the birds. And I am glad that this bird came to me and passed here and didn't pass outside where maybe the vultures might eat him or something else, or the other birds might get infected. So, and the bird knew to come to me for help. It rained all day. It would have been difficult passing for her. She was comforted, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. And Joseph says, I loved the argument Sawyer and Carlin said himself. He wished people would look into the 22-year-long lifespan of the class, what they're about, instead of focusing on just their exit. Yeah, that would be, I mean, if they want to know more about it, what it was all about, really, they're not going to get it from the mainstream media except in little pieces that are there. They're there. But it's easy to let that overshadow things. You know, the way they left was made to look so evil that somebody could hear something from them that they said, like through my mouth or Carlin's or Kathy's or anybody's mouth, and they could automatically have a block up to where they're not going to let that be true in their minds. They're not going to believe that. They're going to believe that we see it that way because we're brainwashed. I'm not saying Kathy's brainwashed in that regard. None of us are. We're all, we all have degrees of what we desire and recognize came from a higher source. Call it wisdom, if you want. And, so that's all I'm going to say about that. But it's up to each of us to make our own determinations of things and go after what we want to go after. So Joseph says, Sawyer, what are your thoughts on Mormons? Well, that it's basically a space alien group, race, representative of a race that was trying to make the two witnesses look like a reality through their interpretation. Because that was the first thing that Joseph Smith experienced, was images of the two witnesses. And you can look at it that way. If you go back and read all the stuff about that I read, anyway. So, but that doesn't mean that it can't be
We're going to stream.
an avenue for somebody to grow through, because that's what the religions are also, something to grow out of, to see things more realistically, and that's where the whole idea of extraterrestrial becomes the higher way, the more accurate, not higher, the more accurate way of seeing it, seeing them. Hello, my wonderful YouTube friend, says Old School Dave, I guess that is.
Old School Dave, you should come.
Old School Dave, there you go. I haven't seen you for a while, but I haven't done these kind of streams for a while.
You should come to our stream to watch you play.
I don't know if he likes that or not. But Joseph Coates says, yeah, it's 5:52 p.m. right now.
Yeah.
5:52, yeah. And when you said that, what time is it now? Oh, no, I don't have the time in front of me.
It's almost 9.
And then somebody took a message, retracted a message from.
It's almost 9.
Right, so I think I went through everything.
And like, ugh.
So I didn't get through all the things in the tape, but I got through a number of them, different points in it. I didn't talk about the overseers. I want to talk about that again another time because it's too close to our. So I'll do that. And anything else I missed from the tape, because there's all kinds of things, places to go. So thank you for anyone that's hanging in here and participating with me in comments, and even if you're saying things that you were trying to challenge me with, I'm not against you for that, but I think I do show that my feathers get ruffled sometimes, and but I'm open to actually seeing things in different ways, but to get me to think that there's no truth in any of this is just not. What's the value of that for you if you're still here? I might ask. But I know people wonder that. So good night, folks.
Come to our stream, Kathy Southwestern.
Yeah, Kathy Southwestern. That's the name of the channel where we stream music.
Probably in about 30 minutes or so.
About 30 minutes or so. Good night. That was 2.5 hours.